Here we go. I'm not pausing.
The American Midwestern town, Raccoon City, has been completely decimated due to the T-virus outbreak that was instigated by the international corporation Umbrella.
You hear that voice?
Arrived in Raccoon City to search for her lost brother Chris, and a rookie police officer, Leon S. Kennedy, managed to escape from the city. But their ordeal was only a prelude of things to come.
This is basically 4. Resident Evil 4 takes place like 8 years later. 3 months later, look at that. This should be Resident Evil 4. This should be Resident Evil 4. All right, let's get down to the business. So I've been seeing stuff. I know this is a bit late and I'm working on something that was kind of a bit late for Halloween, but it's just more like scary. It's not like Halloween based. This isn't like a Halloween game, nor is my next project a Halloween project, but it's drenched in blood. Hopefully y'all can get it. I'm gonna give you a clue, a hint in the description. Always read the description, by the way, for everything. Reading is crucial. Reading is essential. So I've been seeing a lot of people now that like things are in limbo and we're getting this Welcome to Raccoon City bullcrap and all that. If y'all want to know my takes on that, just go look, navigate my Resident Evil playlist. Honestly, I'm not going to like play it back here for y'all. What I am going to do is I am going to talk about the greatest Resident Evil game of all time. I've been seeing a lot of videos just poop out of people's anuses about how bad Resident Evil Code Veronica is, or this, that, and the other about Code Veronica. I see a lot of people who give it praise, but I'm here to talk about Code Veronica today. As y'all know, who have been here a long time, I've already done a playthrough of Resident Evil Code Veronica. It's one of the best games, unlike Zero, which I do believe is a good game, bad story. Good game, bad story. We can literally say those things and they both make sense. Good game, bad story. Say it with me because you guys are acting like I said that Resident Evil Zero is the best on earth. It's not. It's good game, bad story. I started Resident Evil Zero. I couldn't finish it because it's just too long, too convoluted for me to sit down and play it. I have to like play it when I'm in the mood to. Aside from that, Code Veronica is a game that I'm always in the mood for. And there's a lot of people who get stuck on certain points because there are certain things you need and crucial and whatnot. And I know for a fact that the boo-boo babies, where's my bottle babies, who want everything to be easy, who want someone to be at every door inside the game, giving you ammo for free, basically. Buy one, get one free, giving you freaking Dollar General prices because you can't be bothered to look for the in-game currency that you so desperately want. Hate Code Veronica because of course you would. You're not a real gamer. You want to be one of those gamers who buys everything. You want to pay to win. In fact, you want to get your wallet out right now and just throw money at the situation. Y'all foamed at the mouth. There's this dude I follow on Twitter called Resident Evil Central. He's really into the Resident Evil lore and it's cool and all, whatever. She could be a she for all I know, but their name or face isn't attached to the account. It's just basically like a fun Resident Evil account situation. And they do polls. Recently, polls basically were like tier challenge of who can beat who, for who's the better person or overall who's liked more. Claire and Leon went against each other and it was going back and forth for a good bit. It was really going back and forth. I almost lost hope, but I never did. Claire stands came through. And then you know what the Leon losers did? They blamed cheating. Like they're probably the people that said Biden lost. Probably. Let's start looking at some accounts. But anyway. Claire beat Leon, and that's a good thing because, of course, duh. Leon is a glorified side character, and let me address that real quick before I get into Code Veronica and whatnot. You bums. Okay, I'm not gonna come as hostile, okay? All right, so Leon does have movies dedicated to him. But like I said, if you have been following me for one day, you know that those quote-unquote wins Leon has against anybody else, Chris and all that, they're artificial. Those are artificial wins. I hate to break it to you. If they knew what the actual majority, when I'm not saying the loud minority of incels and losers. I'm saying the people who really care about the franchise want Jill Valentine back in the franchise. Y'all would have won them over if you would have just replaced Chris with Jill, but you can't because you're sexist. Yes, you're sexist. You tell the women to go over to Revelations and just be happy, woman. Go be happy, woman. Rebecca's about to be in Revelations 3. Oh, that's wonderful. The woman's side stories. If you want to know how I feel about the Revelations franchise, link is in the description to those videos. But alas, we come to this mountain of crap and garbage of movies. And y'all are going to say because movies exist separate from a game, I don't care if it's canon or not. Canon schmanon. It's still garbage and it's not the games. Do you guys consider the Mortal Kombat franchise to be a direct comparison to the games? Do you? Or do you just like to choose and pick what things go together and what don't? Because I'm starting to think you freaking Johnny Appleseed picking apples, just picking whatever apple you feel and then leaving the rest. That's what I feel. But honestly, I can't be bothered to deal with y'all. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue anymore. Code Veronica is better than Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 should not exist. That stupid Resident Evil 4 side game that only has Leon and Ada Wong because she's connected to him by nutsack, swinging from his nutsack. There is absolutely no reason why Leon S. Kennedy should be as quote-unquote popular as he is. It is a very loud minority of people who like Leon S. Kennedy. You can like Leon S. Kennedy, like what he looks like or whatever, but the most toxic of fans are the ones who are Leon S. Kennedy stans. I don't find any toxicity through any of the people who stan Jill Valentine. I see some toxicity in the Albert Wesker stans and Chris, of course, with the whole bloodline. Okay, by the way, with that bloodline joke, it's not funny. It never was funny. Stop. Literally. So just because Leon S. Kennedy was chosen to be in these movies and be superhero, he's a freaking superhero. Y'all love to talk about how Chris punched a boulder once in a video game. You guys don't care about the logic of a video game until you have to use it against someone you don't like. And when I talk about the logic of Leon S. Kennedy, it is in response to those who make fun of Chris Redfield for punching a boulder in one game. It's this meme now. It's interesting. But Leon S. Kennedy in all his movies act like he's a superhero. When there are women there, they only serve the purpose him to oogle and drool over, to kiss or to rub up against constantly. I can come up with 5 examples of Leon S. Kennedy using the women as nothing but meat pockets. I literally cannot take y'all. Stop arguing about this. It's not up for a debate. And if you come back into the comments anymore about Leon S. Kennedy being more important or not a glorified side character, I'm just going to ignore you. You are going to be talking to a freaking brick wall because this is the final stance I have on this. I'm not going to change my mind. You're not going to tell me something that I don't know. I know my Resident Evil lore. If I get something wrong, it's because I either misspoke or I didn't remember it. But for the most part, I know exactly what I'm talking about. There's no instance, there's no game, there's no movie that you can come up with to explain, well, Leon is better. No, Leon is not better. It took Leon 7 years from the original game that he found himself involved in, the very first game he was ever thought of. In Resident Evil 2, took him 7 years to get his own quote-unquote game. They didn't even care enough about his story to elaborate on who Krauser was until afterwards. Darkside Chronicles was afterwards. It wasn't before. It was after. 4 years after. No one cares about Darkside Chronicles in the normal people, the people who are not nerds or lore masters such as myself. They don't care about Resident Evil freaking Dark Side Chronicles. It's a cool game. It's a cool side game that if you have a freaking Wii, but no one wants a Wii. Everybody's either PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. And by the way, side note here, the Chronicles series, they're not remakes, they're retellings. So before someone comes up to me like, well, actually, technically, Ben Sharp Zero here, if you actually look for the fallacy of your illogical argument, if you hypothetically speak about this, you could probably guesstimate, perhaps, that Code Veronica has already been remade. No, it hasn't. It's been retold. And if you want to play that game, 1 was retold through the Chronicles series as well. So doesn't that mean it shouldn't have gotten a remake? And another thing, Resident Evil 2 was done the exact same way. And so is Resident Evil 3. But they seem to get remakes, and 4 seems to be getting a remake, but Code Veronica's left in the dark for some reason. So enough with you guys trying to add up all of Leon S. Kennedy's freaking appearances and when he was name dropped. I don't know, like I saw somebody in the comments of one of my Twitter things. I don't know where it is, so it's not going to be displayed here when I'm speaking. But I remember when someone's like, oh, just to let y'all know that Leon S. Kennedy's not a side character. I just saw all these numbers and I'm like, where are you getting these numbers from? I've already told you guys who's in it more. And Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield outrank both Claire and Leon. Claire outranks Leon S. Kennedy because he is some rookie cop that no one cared about. Claire Redfield is associated with Chris Redfield. Y'all love to do this whole hierarchy thing with men and all that, but when I actually put it into freaking practice, y'all are acting like you don't know what I'm saying. It's put into practice. Claire Redfield outranks Leon S. Kennedy just for being related to Chris Redfield, who is more involved in the games. People are like, oh, well, Claire is la da 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 da. Her story's done now that she found Chris. So wouldn't that mean Leon's story's done because he found the president's daughter? Shouldn't he have freaking been eaten by freaking Dale the whale or whatever that freaking thing was in the water? Like, we can go back and forth, and I'm not going to. I'm just not going to. I'm going to talk about Code Veronica and how it not only outranks almost every game. And y'all can be like, oh, the top 3. I don't care about the top 3. Like, y'all can go do that and do whatever. But Code Veronica is factually, and it's not just because, it's one of your first games. Like, it's one of my first games, yes, but I didn't have no freaking Dreamcast. All right? I was playing it on PlayStation. And I recently played it on Xbox One. It deserves a remake because the freaking graphics look like freaking pure tea butt sack. Honestly. No one wants that. No one wants what it looks like. It's garbage. And some people could be like, oh yeah, I don't care about graphics. Yeah. I do. The graphics are trash, and y'all love to talk about how Leon S. Kennedy's this and that and that and this. Retire him. No one wants to see him anymore. No real Resident Evil fan. And yes, I'm a gatekeep, and that's fine. Who's gonna keep the gates? Just let people like things, okay? Let people like trash. Cool. All right, so you know what? Synopsis. Code Veronica is known as what could have been Resident Evil 3, but console issues, Dreamcast, and whatnot made Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, Jill's game, Resident Evil 3. Just like Welcome to Raccoon City is giving Jill's importance to Claire, they wanted to, rather than equally distribute purpose to female characters, they, under every circumstance, fight to weaken the disposition of women in their games by plopping one up greater than the other. Whether it be position, importance, relevance. But they don't do that to the men. The men get to equally be there. That's why Resident Evil 6, which should have had every character that we've ever met, including Billy, by everyone who we have ever met. I do mean the people who were relevant to the story and playable. Sheva should have been in 6. Carlos should have been in 6. Billy Cohen should have been in 6. Rebecca should have been in 6. Jill Valentine should have been in 6. And Claire should have been in 6. Along with Leon, who got to be there. Wesker, in a sense, with his child. Whoever he had a child with. That was dumb. And Leon S. Kennedy is there in full throttle. He's full throttledly there. He is straddling it. His whole campaign is basically bringing it back to the roots, as everyone likes to say. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Code Veronica. And to me, Code Veronica should have been Resident Evil 4. As the actually titled Resident Evil 4 took years and years and years. I do believe like 7 or 8 years to bring back Leon S. Kennedy to the canon without having to just be barely relevant. Like in this Code Veronica, people are going to come up to me and pull up to me and say, well, technically, well, actually, if I were Ben Sharp Zero, I would personally take it upon myself to say that maybe you are incorrect, because maybe you probably don't understand or consider the fact that maybe Leon S. Kennedy was in this game because he was referenced when he was emailed. Like, honestly, Leon S. Kennedy was insignificant to the plot. She could have literally emailed anybody, but she only did that for y'all e-boys and loser scrubs who like Leon S. Kennedy. Like, get over it. Code Veronica takes place 3 months after the Raccoon City incident, which is why Welcome to Raccoon City added that in there before the men at the top crapped on Nemesis because misogyny, really, like I said. They are willing to give up Nemesis, one of the greatest Resident Evil, most iconic Resident Evil creatures, villains, bosses, because they know that it's Jill's game. They are willing to get rid of one of Resident Evil's most iconic characters for the cinematic universe that would help their cinematic universe, come to life at the expense of Jill Valentine's true character. And why do you think that is? And rather than making Nemesis the next installment before Code Veronica, because duh, in Welcome to Raccoon City, they're going to give Jill Valentine's arc of going against Umbrella, going against the police department, going against everybody, to Claire. Literally, to Claire. Are you serious? Like, stop. She has importance. And I'm going to explain her importance in this freaking video, okay? Because y'all are playing games and y'all are really trying her. Y'all didn't have to give her Jill Valentine's arc. What you did was you weakened another woman to uphold another one so that there would be infighting between women. That's basically all there is. There's going to be an issue. There's going to be a war against Claire stans and Jill stans because that's what you guys wanted. You wanted us to sit there and to watch it and then be arguing amongst each other while you rank in the bills and dough. But whatever. I digress. In Code Veronica, Claire is taken by Umbrella for meddling and looking for Chris and put into a prison on an island. Sounds familiar. Revelations 2. She was released by Rodrigo Ranwival, who is the darkest skinned Hispanic person in the whole series, and he gets eaten by a worm, gets spit out. He has the saddest death. He serves nothing else but to give you an item that the other person had. And it's like, whatever, people have to die. But like I said, if you want to know my opinion about how white is Resident Evil, link is in the description. Look in the description. There's a lot of hefty, delicious, succulent topics that are down in there. So I want you all to go watch those maybe before you watch this. But you can watch this and then watch it after, but whatever. Literally, Rodrigo Ranwival is the token ethnic person Capcom puts in their games to die. Like, you don't want that problem, put more ethnic people in your game, all right? So we start there, and everything builds on everything. Literally, all the problems I have with this game and all the problems that people say they have with this game can be 100% fixed with a remake. Anti-trans slurs, you know what? That can be fixed in a remake. Claire doesn't have to say what she said, okay? Graphics, you can fix those graphics, boo-boo. You've been doing it for every game. Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3. The most logical next installment you should have did, whether it had been a numeral or not. Because guess what? You guys don't care with Welcome to Raccoon City. Y'all didn't care about a lot of things. But that's another thing you didn't care about. You don't care about continuity. You don't care about what could have been, could have possibly have been Resident Evil 3. You didn't care. You only cared about your bottom line, and you only cared about making women fight against each other over this freaking non-existent character that doesn't exist in real life. But honestly, Claire is very vibrant, very strong, very bold in the beginning of the game. And then when Chris comes, she just becomes a little Daisy Daffodil, good for nothing. Even at the end of the game, that's a issue I have. The way she acts like she can't do anything about Umbrella. She's the one who infiltrated the Umbrella facility. So the way that y'all treated Chris, Claire should have gotten her own numeral game, which should have been 4. If it wasn't going to be Code Veronica, it should have been 4. Leon's story is kind of like, why would he be going after Umbrella? Let me tell you something. Jill going after Umbrella makes sense. She's been a part of this system that has been causing issues, so she wants to redeem herself. Same with Chris. Been a part of a ever-turning wheel that has been to the detriment of other people below them. Makes sense, right? Claire, who has already infiltrated a facility before, had already been a part of this whole prison thing and got out. Makes a lot more sense for her to have a game where she goes somewhere and tries to solve something than freaking Leon S. Kennedy. Like, why are you here? Why did the president choose you? Why didn't the president choose Claire? Why would the president choose some rookie cop? Oh, because he can do stuff? So some rookie cop who has had training, it's cool that you have training, but someone who hasn't had training like Claire, when she does amazing things, what is that written off as? Luck? F that. So, the voice acting people have a problem with. I love to hear people complain about the voice acting because it's like, are you serious? You guys love to say how, oh, the voice acting in 1, 2, and 3, it gets better, but it's strange. And it's like, y'all give that a go because nostalgia. Most of the people who talk about the voice acting, they're like, oh, I don't care. But when Code Veronica happens, they ham it up. And that's a big issue that people like to take with this game, which is ridiculous because you accept it with the other games. But why is this game any different? Like, answer me that in the comments if you're one of those people. Explain to me how it's any different. Oh, because it's later. Like, whatever, it's in that whole system. The reason why Code Veronica looks the way it does, the reason why how you play the game is really difficult to do because of the fixed camera angles and on an axis, like everything's crap. If you're going forwards, you're going backwards if you keep going forwards. But if you don't do that, then you can't escape. Like, I'll show you a video at the end of this video of me like just running into zombie after zombie because you go forward and then if the camera angle changes, you must go back and then you go forward. It's crazy. It was crazy. That can be fixed with a remake. There is absolutely 100% no reason why Capcom, money hungry or not, I repeat, money hungry or not, should be remaking something that you can play right now on the Xbox, right now on your PlayStation, right now on your PC with decent enough graphics for you not to get vertigo. Code Veronica is very outdated in its graphics and its beliefs. And honestly, the people complaining about, oh, this is censorship with the whole VR thing. What did you guys expect, first of all, from something that is owned by Facebook? They're going to do what they want. They're swinging their penis around to see what they can get away with, first of all. Second of all, do y'all really need to see Leon hitting on women that are in his field that they're just trying to do their job? Would he like it if Louis Sarah was like slapping his penis and grabbing his penis? Like, do you guys really don't understand when the shoe's on the other foot? But then y'all love to bring the people who have a problem with this love to bring, oh, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If I have to open the door for a woman, I should also be able to punch her. Like, honestly, irrational, very illogical comparisons. It's like two different things that are literally nothing alike. But when I do talk about what if the shoe was on the other foot, like, that's not a complaint. That's not an issue to people. I think that's really interesting. I don't know why you guys need to have certain things in games. Like, y'all grew up with it, yes, but it was wrong. And I think people have to get over that and be like, okay, so that's wrong. And be like, okay, that doesn't make me a wrong person. That makes me I'm getting better person. No one wants to get better. You want to sit there and you want to be like, oh, I was raised on Leon S. Kennedy sexually harassing someone, so I need to die with that. Like, are you serious? Like, taking that out did not ruin the game. So I really don't understand. And people say, oh, it's the principle of it all. If they do this, then they can do this. I have bad news for you. They've been doing that. People have been making decisions based on what their morality is. That's basically what laws are. So if you want to take this all the way up to the top, we can. Arm in arm, and I'm fine with that. But you're not one of those people. The people who are upset at Resident Evil 4 changing certain things because they were inappropriate do not want to change systematic issues. They just want to complain about a game being changed. And like I said, I understand the people who have an issue with censorship. But this is happening everywhere. When your mom or father told you when you got to be 18, aka quote unquote, legally an adult, you can do whatever you want with your life. You can do whatever. That was a lie. That was a lie. Your guardian, whoever raised you, lied to you. They just wanted you to get out of their face when you were young, making stupid, dumb decisions because someone above you, maybe them, were not raising you correctly. They wanted to placate you so that when you got older, you became the world's problem. You can't do everything you want in this world. You have to be upheld to some sort of standard, whether it be a standard you set for yourself or the standard that you're following, abiding by the laws of the society. And if you don't want to do that, you can go live in the woods where the animals are and it's lawless. And you can have a nice day with that. Like I said, I am all for taking down the system and all that. But I think it's interesting which hills people decide to die on. And I'm sorry for going on this long thing, but I think that's important. But let's get back to Code Veronica. All the issues I hear when anyone talks about why they hate or dislike Code Veronica seems to me like your issues, not the game's issues. It's too hard. You need to get good scrub. The time that I played, I was being helped because it is a hard game and I wanted to complete it as quickly as possible. If you don't want to do that, if that's not your goal, you are more than welcome to go blind and play the game. And if you forget the extinguisher or you forget that you need to switch ammo or whatever, that's on you. I don't understand why people say the game's too hard, therefore it's a bad game. No one says that about freaking, Dark Souls. No one says, oh, it's a hard game, therefore it's a bad game. Y'all love to play games and say, well, this is too hard, therefore, and I think there are a lot of people who are not giving this game a chance because one, it is not a numeral. It does not fall into the chronological order of events, and people are actually saying that it's not canon, which is really dumb because what happens at the end is really telling to how the game progressed from there. More happens on Code Veronica Rockfort freaking gosh darn island than the freaking island that freaking Leon S. Kennedy had to go to save the president's daughter that no one cares about and we never see again. Has nothing to do with nothing. The only reason why Ada's there, for all the Ada stans who are going to be upset at me for not liking Resident Evil 4, she was only there to swing from Leon S. Kennedy's nutsack. She is a shell of a character. It's unfortunate, but it's true. They didn't know what to do with Ada Wong without Leon S. Kennedy being in the game. Therefore, they scrapped her from 8. What does that tell you? They are lost without putting her butt cheek to butt cheek with Leon S. Kennedy. Some people say, oh, it's too long. It's really not. Code Veronica's not really that long. I feel like I took more time to play Resident Evil 4, but I think that's another thing. Your attention span, really, if you want to go quickly in Resident Evil 4, you can. And it's for those people who are like playing freaking Call of Duty, and I'm a Call of Duty player, yes. But I don't like Resident Evil 4 for a lot of reasons. And one of them is the layout of the land. It literally sets the precipice for Resident Evil 5, the horrible flaws with Resident Evil 5 and the horrible disaster of a crap fest of Resident Evil 6. This whole white knight in shining armor have to save every woman. And yes, they do have these little kind of undertones that kind of make up for, but not really. Let me explain to you why. Ada Wong helping Leon S. Kennedy throughout the whole game of Resident Evil 4 was not only an afterthought, but something so that they could, oh, well, no, we're not sexist. We're not anything. She helped him. No one really accepts Ada Wong being crucial and essential to Leon surviving except the rational people. The irrational people who idolized Leon S. Kennedy and wanted to be Leon S. Kennedy as a career when they grew up, they don't believe that Ada Wong helped him at all. They don't give her her flowers. They say Leon S. Kennedy's the great one, Leon S. Kennedy's this, and you guys, Capcom, everybody who's in charge of these stupid CGI movies, reinforce that idea because you have made Leon S. Kennedy a superhero who has no flaws and he never gets hurt. An example, I hate Infinite Darkness because, for one, they're going to play games and say, oh, when you discuss this, don't talk about politics. When you literally have America once again meddling in someone else's civil war. Like, you guys really don't understand the goose and gander argument, because anyone who accepts us going into anyone's civil war would 100% be against any other country going into our country and telling us we need to stop. I'm pretty sure 100% there would be a lot of people who would disagree with that. So I don't understand how they expected me to talk about Infinite Darkness without discussing politics when that's the main focus of the movie. It wasn't even about Resident Evil. Every other CG movie, and if you want to see my reviews on that, links in the description, every other CG movie, aside from that 4-part crap show, Infinite Darkness, actually had kind of themes that we see in the games of Resident Evil, for the most part, okay? Vendetta was just so super strange, and it was like magic. It was magic. Everyone came back till everyone was fine. Everyone changed back, and it was great. That's never happened in Resident Evil history. Once you returned, you returned. And the only time that happened, ironically, which was an anomaly, when it happens once, it's an anomaly. When it happens a bunch of times, and then it doesn't happen a bunch of times, you are inconsistent. So let me explain to you why I like Steve Burnside a lot better than everybody else. I don't like him as a character. I don't like him as a person. He's gross. He's annoying. And I think it's gross that Claire, a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old, were trying to have this relationship. That was very strange. Another thing that can be taken out and changed, or to where he could like her, but she not like him, because I think that's really disgusting. The fact that Steve Burnside was able to turn back the T. Veronica virus in his bloodstream to return to human form. No person in Resident Evil history, and excluding the CG movies, because I'm like, come on. They're like jokes. They're really like jokes. No one in history has been able to do that. And not only that, it is made clear that Albert Wesker takes his body for research and treatment. What if they used that to usher into Resident Evil Revelations 2? That would not only give a little more backbone, a little more stability to Alex Wesker's plan to put her consciousness into someone else's body, or that could help as Wesker does something in 5 that could relate to 5. Honestly, it could very well do it on its own without a remake, but you could do something stronger, something greater in a remake when it comes to Steve Burnside's significance. He was able to control himself. And yes, the enemies usually control themselves, like Alexia, but guess what? She was incubated in years. It took her years to figure that out. Albert Wesker, one could say he was controlled. I really highly doubt any other enemy, despite them being trying to attack you and kill you and stuff, actually had control of their body. I do believe the virus was making them dumb. And I think Wesker fighting in some lava pit, it was dumb. The whole thing in Resident Evil 5, when they kill Wesker and all that, Sheva, give her flowers, and Chris, they poison Wesker because he has to take regimens of the virus or else he loses control. They made him overdose and he started getting stupid. And I think that's why he didn't fulfill his plan. I think if not for him being poisoned, he would have succeeded. And I think he should have succeeded. If you are not new here, I have said continuously that Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 are two different franchises, because I feel like they should have pulled a Thanos and allowed Wesker to at least do something to half of the world. And how about the Western half? Instead of having Resident Evil, we could have literally been to the same places in Resident Evil 6, but with different people that we actually care about. Like I said, Pierce who, Helena who. No one cares about those two people, and I definitely don't care about Jake Mueller. Like, raise your hand if you care about Jake Mueller. Few and far between people that care about Jake Mueller for real. It has nothing to do with him. It has to do with his bloodline. People love Wesker. Ironically, he's the one who won the polls on Twitter against Claire, but Claire beat everyone else. So technically, Claire is the most favorited female character as of 2021, and Albert Wesker is the most popular male character of Resident Evil. And that's really interesting because those two people are both found in Code Veronica, which means, wouldn't you think that means people want Code Veronica remake and not Resident Evil 4 remake that happened 7 years after the Raccoon City incident, which if you're going by the remakes, you just made Resident Evil 3 remake and you're now talking about some director's cut or whatever, or people are just dying on a dream of the director's cut. A lot, okay? There's a lot. But you know what? I feel very passionately about this. And as I said in the beginning of this video, I'm not going to argue about like why I hate Resident Evil 4. And after I play it, because I just bought it for very cheap, mind you, I bought it very cheap. I bought it with like 3 different discounts. So it was like $2. After I'm done playing, I will do a review like I do with the rest of them for the most part. And I will also be playing Resident Evil 5. I'll be playing Resident Evil 6. I'll be playing Resident Evil 6. If I can get like it together enough to do it, I will eventually. I'm probably not going to finish 0 anytime soon, so don't hold your breath on that one. That one's a little too hard for me. But it's not a bad game. It's a bad story. And before I go any further, all right, I'm gonna, every time I talk about the Resident Evil games, I have these 10 things that I have come up with that every Resident Evil game needs in order to succeed. I also use this 10-point system with the movies, both CGI and Mila Kulovich movies. I will be calling those movies Mila movies or Alice movies, because we're going to get these new movies, the Welcome to Raccoon City garbage, and I'm not going to keep saying Welcome to Raccoon City probably. I might just say the Resident Evil movies now, because that's a mouthful, but okay, here we go. Number 1, horror ambiance music sound. Are you kidding me? This is the best game. Y'all can literally argue with yourself, argue with the wall, argue with your mama. Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, old ones, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. None of those games hold a candle. None of them. Argue with your mom. None of those hold a candle to the ambiance, the way the like certain things sounded without music, or there was a little undertone of music. They're like, and then the song, like all that. Like, are you serious? You need to get out of here. Argue with your mom, argue with your dad, argue with your cousin, argue with your baby niece. I don't care. None of these games can hold a candle to all of the songs that came from this game. You're delusional. But yeah, that's a point right there. Puzzles, mini games, difficulty. It's hard. Get over it. Like if you're not going to get over it, don't play the game. I'm not playing Resident Evil 0 because I think it's too hard. Like, not enough ammo. There's a lot. Literally, the end of the game. Go watch me. Link is in the description to that. Go watch me play Code Veronica. I have way more ammo than I would ever hope to need, ever. I have too much ammo and I have too much herb. And I beat the game. Okay? I beat the game with tons of ammo left. Resident Evil 0 is harder than Code Veronica. If you're complaining about Code Veronica, I would hate to see you play or try to play 0. But the puzzles are really good. The mini games are really nice. There are mini games, and they could be amped up. They could be amped up for a remake, but they're good as they are. 3, backtracking maps, locations. Amazing. There's a lot of locations. You never get bored. I repeat, you never get bored. Whoever's bored, your attention span is as big as an ant's leg, because you go to different places, you go to different locations every time. Yes, like I said, there are issues like, how is this 17-year-old boy driving a freaking jet, and how does he know all this stuff, and he's a loser, like some loser? First of all, his dad was working for Umbrella. They could have injected him with some smart juice. You don't know. Fight me. Honestly, like I said, I'm not going to argue with you about how bad Resident Evil 4 is. So if you're going to argue with me about that, literally, I'm not going to respond. But if you want to talk about Code Veronica, I am more than happy to defend it, because I insist Capcom pull up to me and say, well, we just think it's best. We just think it's good for the pockets that we do 4. And I'm like, it just doesn't make any logical sense, though. Resident Evil 4 I could play and not freaking want to scratch my eyes out because it's disgusting looking. Like I said, yes, Resident Evil 4 looks like Wallace and Gromit clay people, but it still looks a lot better, and it has people play it, like I said, because it reminds them of better games. And yes, they came after Resident Evil 4 and they set the precipice, but you can like them. You can like Resident Evil 4 and because it did so much for the gaming community, without saying, oh my gosh, this is the best Resident Evil ever, because it's not. Now, 4, tyrants, bosses, mini bosses, optional bosses. I think tyrants are a staple at this point, but this one was here, and it oversaturated the boss roster. Like I said, Nosferatu is the best boss, next to Norman from Resident Evil Revelations 1. Alexia was a very good boss. If you watch me play Code Veronica, you'll see how easy it is to get freaking Alexia out of her freaking different phases. And that was cool because, yeah, the other guy, William Birkin, had different phases and different forms, but we never saw that on a woman's body. And yes, there was a woman tyrant in one of the other games that I'm not talking. I think it's I don't know, because it's one of those side games. I think it's Outbreak. I'm not sure. But tell me in the comments what the woman tyrant came from, where she came from. But I just thought it was really cool. It was that's why I was so angry when Chris was the one who killed Alexia. I think if you're going to remake Code Veronica, you must make it to where you have the option, because those guys, those e-boys and quarter of men are going to be like, well, actually, when I played this when I was 35 before, I remember Chris Redfield was the one who had the final thought on Alexia Ashford. So maybe these girl bosses need to stop taking men's rights. Honestly, so people don't get too butthurt. You know what? I really don't care about their butthurtness if Claire was the only one to do the final shot on Alexia, or you know what? That's kind of speaking incorrectly. I do not want you to make it to where she takes the final shot on Alexia. I want you to make it to where Claire has the option or is the only person to fight all forms of Alexia, because she was there the entire time. And yes, one might say Alfred was her boss, therefore Chris needs to defeat Alexia, but that's stupid and dumb. Yes, he's someone who's had experience against mutated people, but guess what? So is Claire. The reason why I don't like this damselization of Claire Redfield is because it was carried into Resident Evil Revelations 2 and the movies. You damselized Claire. You damselized all the women. Freaking Chris Redfield can be a hero and not a hero, anti-hero to be exact. When he's been a hero this entire time, I do believe he's a better hero and he's saved more people. And people love to come in the comments, honestly, they love to tell me that Chris, look at all the people that died in 1. Literally, shut up about 1. Everybody was at a disadvantage in 1. I don't understand why you love to take out Code Veronica with that being said. They love to negate it and not talk about it because they don't necessarily see it as a damselization as Claire, as they do see it as giving Claire more than they think she deserves. And that's super annoying to me. Claire was, in a way, damselized by the end because she becomes a wailing widow when she didn't know this boy and she shouldn't be crying this much. Literally, I just think, these designers of games, they love to just put, what they had in their life. Their mom probably cried, once, so they're oh my goodness, wailing widow. Let me do that to Claire Redfield, even though she didn't know this boy for that long. And yeah, it's sad. Yes, it's a bad situation, but come on. Get over it. Number 5, different perspectives. Speaking of which, we should have played Steve a lot longer. For people to care about his death But his character is more important than people give credit, like I said. He's the only one that changes from demon to creature, from human to creature, back to human, and keeps his humanity. That was a big thing. And I think the joke of not liking Steve Burnside, even if people kind of liked him, everyone has to say out loud, oh, I don't like Steve Burnside, because it's like cool to hate him. When, to be honest, I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I don't care enough to not like him. Like, Steve Burnside is kind of on like that Irving side, like on Resident Evil 5. I didn't care enough about Irving to care about him, like to care about him in a negative way or in a positive way. Like, I just didn't care, and I didn't care about Steve. But I think in a remake, maybe make his parts longer. Maybe at the end of the game, we can play over again and play as Steve, just like freaking side A and side B for Leon and all that. And I've heard people say, oh, Leon should have been in this game. No, he shouldn't have. Shut up. Like, y'all love to coddle Resident Evil 4. Get your penis out of Code Veronica. It's not wanted here. It's not wanted. Get it away. Phallusis, dissolvusis, okay? Get out of here. Go. Like, Code Veronica is Claire's game, and to a very lesser extent, Chris's game, and to an even lesser extent, Steve Burnside's game. It is not anywhere close or relevant to Leon S. Kennedy. You guys can go coddle freaking Resident Evil 4 like you always have. Let him have that game. No one's telling anyone that Claire should have been in 4, because she shouldn't have been. Unless Code Veronica was going to be 4, then she should absolutely be in 4, and the 4 that we know today should literally not exist, or should have existed a little bit sooner for me to care. Claire got a lot of information out of this whole situation, and she just seems like she's more connected to the Resident Evil franchise than Leon S. Kennedy. Let's talk about it. So, Resident Evil Code Veronica, Resident Evil 4. Both, they're on an island. Both, they're captured. Both, they have to get out of the situation. One is connected to Umbrella, and Wesker's here, and cool things, and awesome. The other, far less significant people. Ada's here, that's cool. Krauser, do I know you? Are we supposed to know you? We're not going to know you until 4 years later. Interesting. Seems like they didn't really care about this all that much. The only thing keeping Resident Evil 4 alive are these Leon simps. 6. Zombies, viruses, BOWs, the enemies. Yes! The zombie dogs, the Bandersnatch. People have an issue with the Bandersnatch, like, whatever, like, be mad at the Bandersnatch. The Bandersnatch is snatched, all right? Snatched. Press hair, laid. The zombie boys, they're really strong. The hunters are awesome. Poison enemies, moths, different situations. You have to freaking figure out what life is. Got to figure out what's going on here. Freaking moths putting egg sacs in your back. No other game does stuff like that, to where you got to go find stuff. And it's like, yeah, there was another game where there was another situation where you had to go find liquid and go do whatever. But they put a lot, like I said. Code Veronica is very saturated, but so is Resident Evil 6 and 4. And yes, people hate 6. They hate it. We all collectively hate it for the most part. Resident Evil 4 is given a lot more grace for being as saturated as it is, and is irrelevant to the whole story of Resident Evil. Like I have to go down this road for you guys. So 0 connects to 1. We all know how. 1 connects to 2, we all know how. 2 connects to 3, we all know how. 2 and 3 connect to Code Veronica. We all know how. Code Veronica connects to 0 more than Resident Evil 4 connects to any of those games that I just said. Resident Evil 4, the only reason it connects to Resident Evil 5 is because they used similar ways of making the characters move, and the way the camera looked and the way the combat was 4, 5, and 6. The only relevance Resident Evil 4 has to the canon isn't even canon. It's literally physical. It's physics. It's the gameplay. And that's what you guys need to understand, honestly. 7, corporations. Umbrella, yes. Albert Wesker, yes. Honestly, like, play the game or watch me play it. 8, gameplay. Hard until you get to Chris, honestly. Like, it was too hard for me to move around with Claire and to move and to break the ankles of zombies. It was really difficult to play as Claire. And I think they did that on purpose, and I hate that so much. Like, I played freaking San Andreas, and I played as the girl, and the girl runs a whole lot slower than the guy, even though literally, physically, if you guys want to play the physics game and see who does what, women's legs are stronger than men's. Women's lower half of their body is stronger than men's. Men are all about upper body strength. That's why when you see guys doing bodybuilding, they usually be like, oh, look at he skipped leg day. He might not have. He might not have skipped leg day. He might have just been a guy. Once you get to Chris, it's a lot easier. And like, I think a long time ago, I saw this video. Someone was talking about how like Claire's attacks are like a second slower or half a second slower. That's still dumb. Make them all the same. Make them all the same. You don't need to make the girls weaker because your mother was weak. Come on. 9, continuity. Does it fit in the story? Like I said, it's the only game robbed of a numeral, while Ethan Winners gets 7 and 8. He's a main character in these games. When 7 and 8 have nothing to do with diddly squat, and you just throwing Chris in at the end was the dumbest thing on earth. Could have been Jill. Could have been Jill because freaking Jill does stuff. Do you guys not remember Jill? She does things. Could have been Claire. She does things. She's not just on Terra save and not doing nothing and getting captured and being dumb. You're making her that way. But you're making Leon S. Kennedy freaking superhero, and you're making Chris Redfield this anti-hero, which is still cooler than nothing that the girls have. And then you're going to bring back Rebecca Chambers after millions of years of no one caring about her. Not even trying to remake Resident Evil 0 to fix all the story problems that it has. And you're just going to throw her to the wolves. And then when the game does bad, you're going to blame women and say, oh, y'all don't sell games, when you set her up for failure. Okay. Get out of here. Ethan Winter should be a side character. If Code Veronica is going to be told that it's not relevant and that freaking it's not even canon, I think it's really interesting that these Bayou stories that we go through with Ethan the Mold Winters has to be the freaking canon we follow with old Chris, when we really didn't have to age him 50,000 years. We didn't have to go 50,000 years in the future and make this whole, oh, this is a new generation. Like, shut up. You want to do new generation crap? Freaking go do something else. Go do something else, because we weren't done here. You just kind of like fast forwarded through everyone's life. We weren't done here, but whatever. Number 10, overall story. Does it stand alone? Obviously, it has to stand alone, considering it's a quote-unquote side game. I acknowledge the fact that it is a side game. You know how The Lion King has like 1, 1.5, and 2? I kind of consider Resident Evil like 3.5. What I'm angry about is the fact that you guys are treating this side game like it's not even a game at all. And then to say it's not canon is stupid. Play the game or watch me play it, and then come back to me about what happens later. And if you don't know, then stop having these conversations. I know what I'm talking about. I know what's in Resident Evil 4. I've played it. I know what's in Resident Evil 5. I've played it. I know what's in Resident Evil 6. I played that crap from beginning to end. I didn't want to, and I did. And I'm probably going to do it again too on stream. So who knows? Let's get that going soon, right? So literally, one last thing about Resident Evil 4. Not a single gripe I have with Resident Evil 4 Leon's solo superhero adventures is what people say about Code Veronica. Like, honestly, like, you guys really just give so much grace to Leon, and like, we have to ask why. We have to ask why. It's essential to understanding human nature, because the only thing I see that's a problem between Leon and Claire is one character is damselized and the other character is put up higher than his position that he deserves. Leon was just a rookie cop. Everyone of the freaking Fantastic Four people of Resident Evil, Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Claire Redfield, and Leon S. Kennedy, respectfully, Leon is the only one on the outs. Jill knew Chris. Claire is related to Chris. And no, her finding Chris did not end her story, for those who think that. It didn't. People can have other stories, because if you want to play that game, Leon S. Kennedy's story was over when he freaking made it his way to work. He should have died in 2. We can go back and forth, but I'm not willing to. I refuse to be a part of this back and forth of who's better. Either Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield, since they have had equal amount of opportunity aside from the CG movies that they have made to actually be characters and matter in the story, are equal and deserve equal time in the spotlight, which they have not gotten. or you're going to be truthful with yourself and not have crapcom cope and admit that Claire Redfield, without those CGI movies that make her look like crap because they damselize her and make her insignificant and make Leon S. Kennedy best bad boy with no marks or bruises, his freaking arm gets grabbed by some creature and his arm's not out of socket, but Claire's the one that's broken and busted and bruised and told to stay in her place. Like, without those CG movies, Claire is more significant to Resident Evil than Leon S. Kennedy is. The only reason why you think he's something special is because they're giving this facade like he is. They're making every movie, he's the head frontliner. They're making him the frontliner in every movie, and it's not because he's more popular, because as we've seen on these polls that are very accurate to the people who are in the Resident Evil community, Albert Wesker is top tier best male character. Claire Redfield is top tier best female character. That's what we got from those polls. And before those polls, I would have said to you, even as a Claire stan, Jill's the one that's the most popular. She still can get equal exposure in movies and games. They just refuse to. They just don't find it necessary when it's a woman. They don't find it necessary. They don't find it rational unless, oh, you have an agenda. So why isn't it you have an agenda when you only produce males as your front runners and as your superheroes and can do anything and never get hurt? If you want to know how misogynistic Resident Evil is, the link to that is in the description. I'm pretty much done with this. Code Veronica is the best game out of all of them. That's my opinion, but I do believe it's a fact that Resident Evil Code Veronica is better than Resident Evil 4, and y'all are just high on freaking nostalgia and crapcom cope, and you think that just because it's essential to how games were made later, it's the best Resident Evil game, and it's not. And I give Resident Evil Code Veronica a 9 out of 10. That's it. I'm done. All right, here we go. 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 All right. Getting bit. Forgot how to attack. All right. I just keep turning around. No. That was bad. That was bad. Alright, I just needed to get out of that corner. Alright. Yellow caution is okay. We can do it with yellow caution. I'm about to knock all these guys back home. Back home, boy. Chill out, boy. Chill out. I'm about to die. I know!